Members, viewer discretion is advised.
Here we go, Don. Hey, gang. Recently, all over the country, there are probably these problems starting to take place, all right? Pay attention to what's happening here. Recently, in New York's Lower East Side, hundreds of local residents clashed with New York's finest over a small plot of land called Tompkins Park Square now, or Square Park, all right? Was the issue the closing of the park or the takeover of a neighborhood where working-class people made their homes for generations? Is it a case of the rich trying to gobble up the more real estate that they can get, and the poor only defending their homes, or a bunch of anarchists fighting their continual war against society? Is this 1968 or 1988? Join us. We'll find out. Let me introduce some of the folks up on home base with me, will you? And then we'll start down here at Loudmouth. First, I'll start with some of the residents of Tompkins Park. Got a friend of ours who's been on the show before, Jerry Hallcroft. Another good friend of ours who's been on the show a number of times, Curtis Sliwa. He's also... who I might add is also a resident of that area. At Loudmouth number 1, we have Father Frank Morales. Father left the comfort of his parish to become a squatter in that area. And we're going to talk to some of these people. Let me start first with Jerry, all right? What were the events that led to the riots in Tompkins Square Park? I mean, tell me them step by step.
The curfew. Primarily the curfew. These guys came in like without any notice at all. They started painting on the sidewalks of the park. The park closes at midnight.
Without the vote of the community board, by the way.
Exactly. There was no representation from the community whatsoever. There were like 3 people from a community board of over 50 people that had secret meetings with the cops and the city and what have you, and decided that they wanted a curfew on the park.
Is there a residents association there?
There's the Friends of Tompkins Square Park, who was officially opposed to curfew. There's the Avenue A Block Association, which borders the park, which was officially opposed to the curfew. There was the Avenue B Block Association, which was officially opposed to the curfew.
All right, let me go to Curtis Sliwa then. Curtis, you live in the Tompkins area, and as a resident of that area, tell me your side of the story, or do you agree with these guys?
He wasn't even there.
I have a split feeling.
All right, let's hear him, though.
As
Hear
you
him. I'm giving
know,
everyone else a shot.
we patrol high-crime areas in 60 different cities throughout the U.S. and Canada. And you notice that right across the street is a park that obviously the police laid siege to, but Guardian Angels never patrolled. It has its problems, but it's nowhere near the worst of the park. One thing I can say, and he's correct, there's no crack in that park. There are, though, other problems that should have been dealt with.
It won't be cracked as long as you have this guy down,
No.
all right? 'Cause he cleans
Everything
it out.
but...
The people have organized.
These people
have
there,
organized.
your father.
But the problem is that the police who weren't reacting to some of the noted problems, people staying up to 3, 4, 5 in the morning, blasting their music, you know, keeping working people up who couldn't get up at 9 and work till 5 and punch the clock. and then other people would go into the park specifically to sell reefer or hash or LSD and things that were getting out of control. Skinheads, you got to admit, they love to be slamming and jamming one another, and innocent people
You're
would
the only
sometimes
skinhead
get
I know,
hurt.
man.
Speaking slamming
But-
jam, our skinheads.
But
There aren't any skinheads back there.
the one thing, Mort, the one thing I objected to
Wait a second, gang. We're going to get to everyone, all right? Cool with a second.
is that we had a problem with what I call blue bozos. And I don't mean the cops. I mean residents from nearby New Jersey who had blue license plates and Connecticut blue license plates, and they come in on Friday and Saturday, and they dress, you know, with the spiked hair, and they're big and bad, and they come in our neighborhood, make
of those
trouble
people
all
oppose the
night, all
curfew.
day long, then go back to mommy
None of
and
those
daddy to
people
their
were there
respectable
opposing the
prep
curfew. That's a
school
lie.
and their 9-to-5 job and leave the neighborhood.
Lie.
That's why the police were called in by
You're
the
the only
residents.
outsider, man.
All right, Father, let me ask you something. You're not a homeowner or a renter. What part in all this do you play? I mean, what's your stake in all
What
this?
we've done is to seize the abandoned buildings that are there in the interest and with homeless people who need housing.
Good.
Working people who are underhoused and so forth. There's a lot of abandoned apartments there. We're
When you
taking them
seize
over.
those apartments, because I know Jerry's involved in that stuff, when you seize those apartments, you go in and you actually improve these buildings, don't you? Which are, they're not just, they're abandoned by the city, abandoned by the landlords who didn't give a crap what they
We
were
have
like.
to raise money. People say, well, you guys don't pay rent. We fix the roof. We raise the capital to do the repairs. There's a lot of support to this. There's a lot of support. It cuts across all sorts of, you know,
I think
class
there's
lines
even,
and so
I
forth.
think there's even support from Curtis Lewa.
I understand this. Now, what we're trying to say, though, is that the curfew, they tried to impose this curfew as part of a plan to depopulate the whole area of poor and working poor people. It's the first stage of moving everybody who's poor into the East River.
We've seen it before. How about, is there a possibility, let me ask all you guys, so I'll ask it for Father to answer. Is there a possibility of a, let's say, of a compromise, a 2 o'clock quiet curfew? Not that you have to stay out of the park.
Let's explain this very clearly.
All right.
What the community board was about and what was mentioned here right now is a noise curfew. Nobody's complaining with the idea that even at 11 or 12 or 1 o'clock, there should be a noise curfew in the sense that people should chill out. People want to go to sleep and so on. I have a family. I want to go to bed myself. But the idea is what happened. The community board spoke about a noise curfew by August 2nd when the police planned this at the downtown office.
Yeah.
They were talking about an eviction of everyone from the park. They were not talking about a noise curfew.
So
a
they-
noise curfew is misinformation. It
Okay,
was
so
never
they
about
climbed right over that then, Jerry, right?
They jumped right over it. They did it extra legally, outside of the legal system, outside of the community board, outside of the majority of the people who use that park. Yeah, there's a lot of sort of people in there. Not a lot. There are some people in there who
What
are
would you
sort of-
say the
that I would
percentage-
oppose.
what would
we
you
run
say-
out the crack
Father,
dealers in the squad.
Father
We
Morelli.
have to organize to run
Father
that
Morelli.
out. And we don't have to go to the cops.
Get
or the
that while I
guardians.
ask you a question, man. What would you say the percentage, what would you say of the percentage of working class and poor people in that area to the rich was 5 years ago?
5 years
Any
ago,
of you guys know
more
5
like
years ago?
50-50. More like 50.
Okay, what is it now?
It's really difficult times for poor and working people in that whole area. The Christador, right
No,
on
what I'm
Avenue
saying
B.
is what percentage of wealthy do you have down there? Or do indeed you
Okay.
now have some of the major developers wanting to take over those buildings,
Exactly.
toss everyone out? Huh?
Exactly. Skydell is one of the biggest developers in New York. He owns the Christador on Avenue B and 9th Street. Okay, they're paying $1 million a pop. Nobody in this room. That's why I asked, who's rich in this room? We're all united around that. The people in that park opposing that curfew were all kinds of classes, Puerto Ricans and blacks and Polish people and Ukrainian people. All the people make up the Lower East Side. They're trying to divide us.
Tell me, how did the riot start?
The way the riot started is that
Wait a second, let's hear it, man.
specifically
We'll
what
get all the
happened,
stories, man.
what happened is that at about the middle of July, the June 28th community board meeting voted to discuss and voted, apparently because the minutes haven't been released, to have a noise curfew with increased police presence in the park area, etc. June 28th.
That wasn't upsetting to anyone.
Right. That's not about evicting everyone
All right,
from the park
go
at
ahead,
midnight.
go ahead,
okay?
go ahead.
By August 2nd, when the meeting took place at Manhattan South, in which there are members of the police department, including a few members, and if I might add, the more right-wing members of the community board, met with the police and planned the assault. August 5th, Friday night.
Now, how do you know it was an assault? You used the word assault.
August 5th, Friday night, the night before the rally, and it was advertised as a peaceful rally. The leaflets they're showing purporting violence and so forth were not the leaflets that organized for that rally. It was a peaceful rally to protest the curfew. Friday, the 5th, the rally was Saturday night. Friday the 5th, there was a buildup in that park of military equipment you have never seen. Friday night. There were cops lining Avenue D. They were planning a military assault the next night. It's not an idea of one person throwing a beer. You know yourself.
Okay.
4:30 and 5 in the morning. 5 hours after they supposedly, jumped off. They were beating people's heads in 5 hours later.
All right, what happens?
This
You
is
guys...
a planned
All right.
assault on a community.
All right, I'll tell you
a whole
what.
community.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break and find out exactly how it really got going, at what time it totally got out of hand, and at what time Commissioner Ward, who tries to take a pass on this, all right, what time Commissioner Ward knew what the hell was happening, instead of pulling his baloney stuff of sticking a captain in another place and a lieutenant someplace else. Commissioner, the head stinks first, remember? All right, gang. Let me see, we're going to feed to the piranha tonight, all right? Let me go to our monitors first here in the studio, and for the folks at home, to get a montage idea surrounding the Tompkins Square riots, all right? Let's take a look at that. Give it to me on the monitor, gang, will you? All right. Let me introduce Bo Deedle, one of the most decorated police officers in history. Bo is a 15-year veteran, I should say, of the NYPD, and is a New Yorker who saw the coverage on television, on TV now, mind you. Did the police act unjustly?
Well, let me tell you something. What they want to do with the housing, I think is a fine thing. But that's where, as far as I go, with the law and order thing, and as far as the police department with a conspiracy to go in there to beat people up, that's baloney. That's total baloney. All right? You're sorry, right? Want me to talk? Let me talk.
But I want to hear her.
You want to let me talk, or you going to talk? Let me talk, and then you have your chance, okay? No, baby doll. I'm sitting up here and I'm
living it, baby, because I live in that
Let
neighborhood.
me tell you something, all right?
I want to tell
Why don't
you,
you let me
the
talk?
police department and
Why
everybody
don't
that
you
had
let me
anything
talk?
that had to do with that
Why
was
don't
full
you-
of it,
all right,
because
why don't
they
you
did
let me
not treat
talk?
us like decent
Why, let me
people.
talk.
They came to our park. They came to our park, and they wrote.
All right.
They wrote.
Wait.
Listen.
Wait a second.
Nobody believed that they were actually going to close the park because they spray
We're not
painted it on
talking
the
about
floor.
that.
If you come into a neighborhood and you're going to
talking
close
about
it
that.
down,
All right,
then that's
sweetheart,
what's going to happen.
do me a favor.
No, what
Stay
you're
here.
saying is that they didn't come here to fight.
All right, stay here.
Let me finish
Go ahead,
first,
Bo.
all right?
Bo,
I
make
left
your
the police
explanation.
department in
Let-
1984.
Bo, make your explanation, and then let her respond. But let her make
Give me a chance. I
Let her
left
make
the police department in 1985 because I was unhappy. I was unhappy about the procedures. I was unhappy with a lot of things. Police Commissioner Ben Ward broke up the Tactical Patrol Force. That was a group of men that was trained. They went through the late 60s, through the 70s. They were trained for this kind of stuff. And we went through the... Let me finish, please.
Let
Will
him
you let me
finish.
finish? Why don't you let me finish, all right? Don't argue with him.
We went through the 70s. We went through some trying times there. And what I'm talking about, these were trained guys. What you had in Tompkins Square was a lot of young folks that didn't know what the hell they were doing. All right, now let me finish. You want to let me
you're right.
finish?
I agree. But let him finish.
I'm agreeing with you if you let me finish. Why don't you sit down?
Wait a second, man.
Why don't you sit down and let me talk?
Finish. Let him finish.
Why don't you let me
all right?
talk? What I'm bringing out is that they dismantled the Tactical Patrol Force. That was a group that was supposed to handle these things. What you have there was young 21, 22-year-old kids with badges. Will you let me talk?
Let him finish. Let him
I mean, what do you want? You want to talk or am I going to talk? Let me finish. What happened was, it was a situation,
Let him talk.
it was
Relax.
a situation
Relax.
that shouldn't have gotten out of hand like that. I'm not supporting the police for what they've done. I see the film, and I'm not supporting for an hour prior about the bottles going over the head. It was handled very bad.
What should be done?
And again, the police commissioner,
If you don't
Ben
support
Wong,
it, what should be done?
what should be done is this. I feel as though it has to be a peaceful way. I am totally against that. Anybody hits anybody with
What about
that.
Eleanor
You know
Bumpers
my
and Mike
career? You know what I'm all about? 15 years. I was a decoy. I was mugged 500 times. I've been stabbed. I've been shot at. I never killed anybody. So let's back up a couple of steps, all right? Let me tell you. What I'm saying is, I'm certain you want to get in a yellow match with me, fine. I'm certainly not going to say the police were right for doing what they did, but I'm certainly saying the people weren't right to throw bottles at the cops. You have to understand, when you're a policeman, you're out in the street, you're getting propelled by bottles. All of a sudden it's not a cop-out. It becomes a frenzy. Like a riot occurs with people, a riot can occur with the police officers. Everyone's running in there, it becomes a frenzy. These fellas were not properly
Why were they
trained.
beating and taking people on the ground? In the most centralized law and order institution in this society,
Right.
that 400-plus cops come in with a helicopter the night before, have a military installation with a computer set up, and they came in and just overreacted. Nothing was premeditated. It was planned. On August 2nd, there was a meeting on August 2nd at the Manhattan South office. That was planned. That was planned.
Do you know what goes
5
on?
a.m.,
in the
people were
workings of the
getting their
police
heads
department?
cracked. 5 in the
Anybody know
morning.
what's going on? I left 3 years ago for a
police
reason.
department doesn't
The
even
reason
know what's
is,
happening.
the
It's not
reason
involved
is
in
they
it.
don't.
One at a time, and
The
no one hears
reason
this.
is this, why I left the police department. Because of the wimpy nature, where they don't tell the cops to go out and do a job. Now, what I'm saying is, they weren't trained. They should have a tactical patrol force. That could deal, not the beat head.
They should be fired.
I'm talking about the New
Warren
York
should
City
be
police.
indicted for assaulting
I'm
200 people on the
I'm
Lower East
talking
Side.
about they
He should
were
be
not
indicted.
prepared for
Warren
this.
should be indicted. Cops should be removed out of office.
Wait a second. You know, let me
Let
finish.
me go for 1 second.
What I'm trying to say, listen to me. All right, listen to me. What
You
I'm
want
trying
people...
to say,
Wait a second, man. Stop. Do you want people to hear the real story of what happened to you guys? How a lot of... Yeah, man, you hear all sides of the story, or you don't hear... Now, let's listen to everyone. Curtis, let me hear you. And then I'm coming back to... Then I want Jerry up here. Go ahead.
I was personally there. I saw everything. I live right across from the park. There were indiscretions on both sides.
Where was a big indiscretion? Was there a helicopter in?
Yes,
Was there a
yes,
communication
yes.
center set up? Were they around the park before anything was supposed to be done? That's like walking up to someone with a torch, sticking it in their face, and
No
not
question.
quite burning.
No question. Complete overreaction. The problem I have, though, is that the police officers, and you know, they follow orders, and I've had
Yeah,
trouble.
damn right they
orders
do.
from the
I've
That's
had
what I
trouble.
want to know.
And you
Where did
follow
those
orders
orders
from the
come
Justice
from?
Department.
The problem here,
We
Mort,
do follow orders from the Justice Department.
relax a second.
and what's happening here, though, Mort, you saw a scene in that film, and it's not being addressed. What the hell did the American flag being ripped have to do with that plot? It was about to be burned!
We'll be back in just a minute. Don't worry, man. If there was really a CIA, they would have exploded you guys.
Okay, I just want to ask one question. What does the American flag have to do with arresting people for holding up signs, giving out leaflets, having peaceful demonstrations?
That's right.
Arresting people yesterday for selling newspapers in the park. All stuff that has happened.
Right.
First Amendment rights. You know, First Amendment rights.
Let me respond to what you said, please, sir. If you give me an opportunity, all right? I came here as a neutral guy. I said, you people, I really wasn't there. Will you listen to me? I wasn't there when it happened. I came as a neutral person. I said, you're doing a fine thing with the buildings and all that kind of stuff. But after sitting here, trying to talk, and when some garbage can tells me he wanted to burn the American flag in front of me,
No, he's saying what happened in the name of the American flag?
He told me, he says he wants, he just told me he wanted to burn the American flag.
Bo, stop it. Stop, Bo, for 1 minute. Bo, shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Let me explain something, all right? I spoke to some of these people. They weren't going to burn the American flag. One was. One was. You were. I would have kicked your out. Most of them wanted to take that flag and show they cared for it, too.
This is what happened in this park. I wasn't there, and this is what happened. American people are resisting gentrification. A bunch of American people, working people were resisting gentrification. What you're doing here. That's what you're doing here. This is a false issue. What you're doing here. What you're doing here. Theater. That's what that is. Theater. What you're doing here. Trying to talk now, and what you're doing is, what you did was un-American. What the police did was un-American. No.
Why don't you have that was. He was. Okay, I'm going to call the show off if you don't shut your mouths, both of you. Now, I want to tell you, I want to introduce you to Robert Gould. Robert, what's your part in this? I want to hear. I don't know.
What I see is that this is an issue of respect. And I want to... That's right. That's not respect. If you can't keep your mouth shut for 5 minutes, then you have no respect for anybody.
No, I have respect for the people. Not for you. People all around the world, we have respect for people who are homeless. We have respect for the poor people who are fighting for homes. We have respect for people who fight police violence.
Wait a minute.
Father, don't turn people who agree with you because you won't let other people talk. Let this guy talk, all right, and just relax for a minute. Mr. Gould, you've got 2 minutes. 2 minutes, I want to hear 0 out of everyone. Go.
This is an issue of respect. You want the city of New York, the people of the city of New York, and their police department to show respect for you and to show respect for those good things that you have done in rehabilitating, saving some of those buildings, creating housing for people that can't afford it. I'll do that, okay? But you have respect.
You've got to tell him to stop evicting us. You've got to tell him to stop coming with the rich landlords and pushing everybody out of the building.
Would you?
You've got to tell them, as policemen, to not side with the rich, to collaborate with the ruling class.
I'm going to ask you one time to shut up or get the hell out of here. Now, they said rightfully, put your money where your mouth is. Would you help them to prevent them being evicted from those homes?
The truth will set you free. What's happening, Mort, right now?
Wait a second, I asked him a question. I want to hear the answer. I want to hear the answer. I want to hear the answer.
What's your problem?
Hey.
I got no problem with you, pal. You want problems?
I said this is an issue of respect, okay? Hey. If you want to get respect, man, give respect.
That's right. What do you say?
Wait a minute.
That's right.
Wait a minute.
How do you give respect when you've never
That would be
gotten
a sign of respecting the people. War on a fire, those
Just a minute. Hey, I've spent 25 years representing people that have a lot less than you've ever had, buddy. Okay?
I doubt it.
Now, let me finish.
I doubt it.
They don't get up and yell and shoot their mouths
for
or say
yourself.
nothing. saying,
I'm here now. I'm going to speak.
The bottom line is, I'm trying to tell you something, that there's a way to do things and get it accomplished, and there's a way to make a lot of noise, scream and yell, and get nothing. And that's the road that you seem to be going on. An American flag jumps up, okay, and I see a lot of people giving the American flag the bird. That is not going to
Nobody's doing that, Jack.
keeping
That's
those
a false
people
issue.
in those
That's a
houses.
false issue.
Not a false issue,
Talk
Father.
about the riot. Talk about the police. Talk about gentrification. Talk about homelessness. That's the issue, Jack.
Father.
Not this bull. It ain't gonna work, Jack. You're gonna have to evict me. We're not gonna talk about that. That's a false issue. We're as American as you are. I'm not an American.
Then show respect for your flag. Why can't you show respect for the flag and still make all your points?
Because the government's trying to kill the poor off.
First Amendment. We respect the right
No,
to
you
protest
respect
peacefully.
You gotta respect
That's
the
what
entire.
we were doing.
You gotta respect
The
the
police
people of this
violated the
country.
First Amendment.
That's what you need
That's
to
what
respect.
happened.
Hey,
The police violated our right to protest.
We'll be back in this thing. Come on.
Here, 31 UHF.
Let me see that American flag there. All right, I told you they love the American flag. Now, let me go to Father. Father, you said if you had a chance to express something about the First Amendment, you'd like to make a quick statement. Please do it.
Right. What I would like to say is this, is that sidetracking on this issue is going to cover up the essential issue here, which is First Amendment right to peacefully protest not having a job, to peacefully protest that rents are too high or that you don't have any food. The right to peacefully protest was violated, radically violated. Now, the reason we say this is because it was very clear, it's very clear, the community board, which is, set up to look into these matters regarding curfews and so forth, did not vote for this action.
Right.
This was a police action. And to say that an action that spanned 6 hours in the course of a night is something which, a few people overreacted, or to talk about young cops, this was a premeditated attack, an assault on a whole community.
Now, here's what...
It's tantamount to emerging fascism in this country. We have to stop it.
Okay. All right. I think both Bo Dietl and our audience would recognize the validity of some of what you're saying, all right? The important thing is, however, that we can't blame every policeman for what happened. We have to blame... No, you don't, man. You blame their leaders who inculcate that kind of crap into their brain. How many of you were at Grant Park in 1968, huh? How many? So was I. Right in the middle of it, baby. I was right in the middle of it.
Join us. Hollywood turned out last night for the $7 million man. We'll show you.
Without injury. It can't be done.
I saw the film. The police overreacted, okay? But listen, will you listen? Let me finish. Let me finish, fellas. Let me finish.
We could have a decent discussion.
But by attacking who set them up is the answer. Go after the community board. Go after our system the way it's structured. Don't go after the cop that was following the damn orders. Because all a cop is an instrument that's listening to orders. Who's responsible is your community board and all these other people.
He should disobey those orders. I'd like to There's a higher moral right. There's a higher moral right. Lord, can I answer this gentleman?
Let me hear this gentleman.
All right. I'd like to speak to some of the anger that does exist in our community. I'm not going to try to say it doesn't. There's a lot of people that felt the park curfew issue had a more subtle, devious thing behind it, and that is to force the homeless into AIDS and TB-infested shelters, where the depopulation of the Lower East Side and Harlem would not just be the homeless situation, but where large numbers of people would die of AIDS and tuberculosis in the shelter system. They're not building any more low-income housing. So the reason people are taking their anger out at the government is because some people believe this government is preparing to carry out another massive genocide like they did with the Indians.
Here's your question.
Stop and think about it.
What are you willing to do to help remove the problems that encourage this kind of activity?
What do you want to do?
What I'm suggesting to you is that people like yourself, what would you do to get rid of the drug dealers that are using you and that park to make bucks, okay? What would you do about that?
Cut off the Contra cocaine. They're smuggling, the government's smuggling in drugs to help fund the Contra wars. And the government is
One at a time.
They funded the Contra
Father, one at a time. You are not the only spokesman for these people. There's a lot of people with words. Go ahead, pal, your turn.
Okay, here's the problem. There are not that many drug dealers in the park. Talk to Curtis Silva. I know in the surrounding neighborhood, it is infested by drugs. How come they take, there's like 10 cops now on duty. How come you can walk over a couple blocks and see crack being sold right on the street?
All right, now, let me ask you, Mr. Gould. You ask these gentlemen, what would they be willing to do to help their situation? What would you be willing to do to help their situation?
I'll tell you what I would be willing to do. I would be willing to see and to put my voice behind a change in the training of policemen that are sent out to this kind of duty, because obviously they were improperly trained. They reacted. Let me finish. They reacted badly, okay? Despite the fact that they were provoked, they shouldn't have reacted the way they did. They shouldn't have covered their faces, okay? And their superiors.
What are you going to do, Mr. Gould? Are you going to form a committee next year and then bring it to the mayor and let him form another study committee, and then the city council and Andy Stein, and they all form committees, and 5 years from now, when you've wiped out the middle class, annihilated the poor, then we're going to have something done.
Zip it. You got two real choices, okay? If you either go through the system, okay,
or you change the system.
Where we could start.
If you can change the system legally. That's what I call working through the system.
Legally. Let the people speak. I want to hear from them. We'll be back in just a second. Come on. We've heard emotional discussion. We've heard emotional discussion from people who have been involved on both sides. I think it's time we went to the audience, all right? Keeping these things in mind. Yes, the riot took place. Yes, indeed, it was a police-induced riot. To get the fire to explode, sometimes you have to put kerosene on it. The kerosene, of course, was supplied by people being emotional about being thrown out of their homes, by young police officers responding because they were probably told to respond that way by officers, all right? So, let's understand that those are the parameters and hear from the audience. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I'd just like to say that the riot is a major issue, but the main issue down there is there's an economic war on the Lower East Side. And the whole idea of closing the park is to help make that neighborhood palatable to real estate developers. That's what that riot was about. And that's why everybody in that neighborhood got together. It wasn't just a group of yippies or skinheads. It was everybody in that neighborhood. Black, white, Puerto Rican, Ukrainian, Polish, working people, you name it, they were out there because they're sick of the gentrification. That's what it was about.
All right, gentrification for those in our home audience who may be in an area where you don't have large urban area cities, all right, gentrification is the taking of an ethnic area almost. Or let me take that as an example. An ethnic area, a poor working class area, middle class area, and taking and moving the wealthy developers in so they can buy the houses or take the abandoned homes build the big expensive apartments, force the other people out, or use them as servants? Go ahead, sir.
For a lot of years, you know, a lot of us have hung out in Tompkins Square Park, okay? And we've had the foot patrols and we've had, you know, the cops on mobile. I want to know, you know...
Have they been okay?
They've been great because, like, if they see us acting or behaving in any kind of, like, you know, crazy
Stupid
behavior,
way.
they'll tell us and we'll stop, you know, or if, whatever, right? Why all this, you know, like, we don't need
it
it.
seems like we're finding out, doesn't it?
We don't need it.
Go ahead,
Well,
pal.
you know, it's obvious in a situation like this, it's hard to blame who's right, who's wrong. When especially, hold on, why don't you shut your mouth for a couple of minutes, please? It's hard to...
You guys tried to take over Tompkins Square.
It's hard to actually blame when you actually have to begin to take your beef to the top guys, because it's like it's been said.
How do they get
guys-
access to the top guys?
You
How do they
got
get
to
it?
go down
You
to the
tell
hall,
me,
man.
you
Go
come
down
here
to
a
the
second.
police.
Come here. I'm not trying to embarrass you, pal, but you tell me that walking into your office is going to get access, huh?
It's obvious. Walking inside the office ain't going to do it for us.
Yeah, but the point is, here's the point. Look, you and I have been through a lot together, right? The point is, and I'm not finding just on their side, but the point is, you gotta have access before you can get to the top. And you can't sink him into the garbage because he dresses like I think an ass.
Would it be wrong?
That's all right. Come here. That's just the
Would
way I
it be
think.
wrong for him and the rest to get together and have a protest right in front of their quarters?
Then they be busted again.
How could you possibly expect the police?
Let me ask one question. You know outside.
Let him
You
answer.
know
Let him ask, pal.
outside Gracie Mansion, where Mayor Crotch lives, is a park, Carl Schurz Park, for the rich, the affluent. We'll join you, we the Guardian Angels, both of us.
Wait a second. Wait a second, man. Wait a second. Listen, where's an offer?
Wait a
Who the
second.
hell cares where your allies come from if they're allies?
Let's take it, wait a second. Let's take it to the mayor's park. Bring the protest outside the mayor's house in his park, and we'll be with you. We'll be with you in that.
Hey, Curtis.
And I've got news for you. Let me tell you something. If you do that, I'll go down with you. Yeah. All right? Every one of us will go with you. And I'll go with you. We'll be right back to speak to the rest of these people. Come on. Let me please, if you will, let me go to Isabel first. Isabel?
Well, hello, my name is Isabel Dawson, and I am a mother of two. I am married happily for 8 years. I am a homesteader on the Lower East Side. I work, I pay taxes. The city owns the